Hey Stephen, Jim Altimos. Here's a picture of me coming up along with cousin Antonino over in Italy, just to prove to you we do the roots. We've done the roots thing in Italy and in Germany. These are just current pictures, and that was a much better picture of me. This one here is Fran and I last weekend at a dance exhibition, but it's got the both of us there. The picture's just not as clear. I'm going to try to go through what pictures I had and a little bit of the histories I've done on several of these kind of movies I've tried to put together. As you saw from the this slide that's up right now, John Effinger was born, and George also, in Munich, is from what I'm told. And then the Effinger family, four children, John and his wife, emigrated from Munich through Rotterdam to Baltimore. And then it was years later when they moved down to Washington. Next up, mostly in terms of what pictures I had, is the oldest of pictures. This was Elizabeth Lucas Effinger's mother, and that was 1890 picture. This was grossmother. This was the wife of John Effinger and Papa, or George Effinger's mother. Grossmother, they called her, Margaret Siegler Effinger, and this is with her, she and her son George, and his wife Elizabeth and Frances Effinger. This is my grandmother Mary, another of the pictures. This is about 1918, I believe, before she was actually um, had my mom or was married. Francis, I think this is Frances Effinger. I have Cecilia seeing it, trying to tell me. I hope we're looking at this picture to tell me who everybody else is. William Davis, my grandfather, Mary Effinger Davis, and this is my mom. It's sometime, I forgot what the date was on that thing. A little bit later, it looks like one of those sitting portraits of Grandma Davis, Mary Effinger, around 1927. Papa and Mom, his mother, Margaret Siegler Effinger, around 1929, probably the last picture we had. She died in Papa's house there in Seat Pleasant, as you probably know. Fell down the steps. Three of the kids made it, and this was at a reunion in the 1940s. The other son died as an infant. William Timms plays in the family, so he's a little younger, but also so was Aunt Bessie, Elizabeth Effinger. Um, Catherine Effinger married this Mr. Colline guy, and that's Aunt Bessie in the middle, George Wenger and Barbara Timms, I think. Aunt Bessie and Papa, Elizabeth and George Effinger. They're somewhere around their house. That doesn't look that familiar to me, though, and I'd been there. Aunt Bessie, Frances, and Margaret Timms. I haven't figured all of this out yet. There's just us, man, to figure it all. George, Cecilia's father, and this was Frances Effinger on the right. Good friends with my mom. They were about the same age, I guess, as cousins. And Papa, George William Effinger, I remember him very well from being in the house. He was laid out a lot. I remember him walking around and things in earlier years, but that's about it. We're already up to 1945. This is the wedding of my mom and dad in Seat Pleasant. I can't believe that there were movies. I'm talking over all of this. This is Aunt Bessie, that heavier lady. God, who knows? Who would have believed they were doing this in 1945? Or that we had movies of it. I was just amazed. Anyhow, that's William Davis, and there's Aunt Bessie. Looks a little heavier there. I haven't figured that out. And everybody's walking out. My Aunt Elva, and here's William, Aunt Bessie, Litter May, and Irvin Altimos. My grandfather's on my dad's side. Haven't figured out who the lady is here coming up on the right, but I think she was the best maid of honor. She's in a bunch of these pictures, and she manages to get back around. But I didn't even look through this thing or probably pay attention to it when Mom was alive, so I just don't know who all these are. I'm hoping Cecilia will be able to figure some of it out. Mom and Dad, married now. I think I'm going to take a break. Here she comes again. I recognize that face, and I know somebody knows, but I don't know. Um, Elizabeth Effinger, Helen, Florence, who was a family friend, and Grandma, and that's me. So this is up in a 46. Grandma, Mom, and great grandmother. So they put three or four generations together. Um, Barbara Effinger Wenger, there's a story about her. I think Cecilia may have been able to pass all that on to you. I think this is around 1949, although she looks older, and she's the lady on the left. Here, I haven't figured this one out either. Elizabeth Lucas Effinger, our Aunt Bessie in the middle. I think the lady on the left might be a Mildred or something, but I'm not sure. Um, Papa and Aunt Bessie just outside their house at 6519, which I think you knew. And God, I love that house, but Mom always warned us about the stairs. Aunt Bessie outside her house as well, down in the garden, it looks like. All right, and a group of Charles Brady, Mildred Effinger, and William Timms, along with Aunt Bessie and Thelma. That's Cecilia's mom, and Papa there on the right. A few more movies coming up that I've sort of cut and moved them around. Aunt Bessie and Grandma outside their house, and my granddad William Davis. He's coming out. He always was smoking. That I remember. You mentioned popping his pipe. Grandpa Davis always had a cigarette. I got the name of that house across the street, but I just don't have it right in front of me. This is the house they lived in, the 6515. I was talking to Cecilia and the branch. They always talked about the branch down there in those weeds on the bushes on the right. A little dinky creek down through there. Nobody ever knows the name. Grandma coming out, check out those cars. This is about 1955. I'm guessing this is when we came back from Bermuda because I know Dad had a movie camera then. And of course, that's Papa's house right there. And then George Jr.'s house was up next to it. I'm pretty sure. And George, Papa, and William Davis built that house that my grandparents were in. So again, I think this is 1955 when they'd come back. My mom and dad and the five of us had come back from being assigned in Bermuda for 3 years. And I know Dad had a movie camera then, but that doesn't explain the 1945 getting married, because that would have been 10 years earlier. I don't know who the little child is, or that girl right there, but this, Aunt Bessie, Grandma, and it looks like it could be Aunt Elva, which would make the little girl maybe Diane, which is what I put in there. Mom, Aunt Bessie, Grandma. Of course, it could be my sister Janet, for that matter, if this is that 1955 after the time we're all back from Bermuda. Often William Davis's mother is mentioned, and here you can see she's got some sort of a disease, something like Huntington's or whatever, and it's only films or shots I have of her, so I put them in there even though it's dark. Back up in there. Charles Brady Jr. and his dad, his mom Helen Effinger Brady, and then Aunt Bessie there on the right. Aunt Bessie and her daughter, Mary Effinger Davis, my grandmother, so grandma and great grandma. And you can see Aunt Bessie's thinning out quite a bit as it's getting older, closer to when she's going to fall down the steps, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure this is Catherine Effinger, one of Papa's sisters. Barbara was the other one. Barbara got kidnapped, sort of, out in North Dakota. But that could be Barbara, too. And Grandma married Charlie Comfort a little later after William died. They made a honeymoon tour out to the west, and we were in Utah at the time, and that's what that picture was from. Florence Tucker, a friend, a longtime friend with my grandma. This is in the McGuire house there in across the D.C. line in Maryland, Southeastern Ave, I think. And this was I think the reunion when the sisters finally got together over a big old clash that had occurred years ago, and Cecilia had arranged that. That's about it.